Remember, remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. This is going to be my only video this week, so I'm going to cover why and some news and stuff first, and then I'll go on and I'll riff some about Guy Fawkes and fireworks and symbolism and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not interested in news and so on about me, you can skip forward a few minutes and that should take you into the other stuff. Okay? Okay. Right, so no fuck this gay earth this week. Probably not next Monday either. Why? Well, from Thursday through Sunday I'm at a little convention me and my friends have just amongst ourselves called Awesome Con, and I'll be running games and playing games from Thursday through Sunday. So I'm going to be wiped next Monday and probably won't be able to do anything much on that day because I'll be recovering. Socialising, even with friends, really kind of takes it out of me, let alone that many late nights playing games and so on. It also means in the run-up to this, because I had gotten my dates muddled, I have a shitload of adventure writing to do. Fortunately, I can then go on and sell those if I do them for public domain games, so it's not an entirely a wasted effort or amount of time, but still, I need to do that. I need to get that done. And obviously the issues that I have that you know about mean that I have to use whatever energy I have for whatever is the most pressing, and now it's writing adventures for the convention. So you won't see much from me this week. I will be streaming in the evenings, so if you want to ask me awkward questions about politics or anything else, you can pop in there, chat to me while I play RDR some evenings this week. I don't know which. Maybe some Fallout 76 as well if the demo open times happen to fit well or at all or properly with UK time zones. So there's not going to be much on the channel this week. If you want to do a guest video, and you don't have to agree with me on anything at all for me to host a guest video. In fact, I welcome people dissenting and countering things I've said in other videos, so you're welcome to do that. If you're a smaller channel and you want a little bit of a boost from reaching my subscribers, you're welcome. If you're a bigger channel that wants to give me a boost, you're also welcome, and I have no problem with you sharing stuff on your channel at the same time, before or after, whatever. So if you want to help me fill this content gap that's going to last about a week, and you can bang out a video quickly within the next couple of days, and you want to help me out, that would be welcome, but it's not essential. So all being well, I should be back next Tuesday or Wednesday. If anything really dramatic happens, I'll do a quick diary video on my phone and upload it from there. Okay, right, let's talk about burning things. Every culture seems to have a day when they just like to blow shit up and burn things. Some sort of primal thing about fire really seems to appeal to us. It's when you light a fire anywhere and men will gather to poke it with sticks. You know, fire is primal and elemental and dangerous, and one of the earliest technologies that we mastered. You know, so it's pretty ingrained in people, something to be feared but also loved and used. And so, like I say, each culture has a time in particular when they just want to blow shit up. There's Diwali for the Hindus, there's Independence Day for the Americans, though they picked the middle of summer when there's not much night to set fireworks off in, which yeah, when we settled America we didn't send our best. should we put it that way? And for those who don't have some special day where they like to blow shit up, there is just New Year's. New Year's seems to be the default when people like to set off fireworks. It didn't used to be a big thing in the UK to set off fireworks for New Year's. Since 2000 though, and all the firework displays for that New Year's, it seems to have become a second excuse for us to blow things up. Now, ostensibly, the reason why we set off fireworks and have enormous bonfires and so on in the UK is to celebrate the execution of Guy Fawkes, who was a terrorist who tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament and failed in the gunpowder plot. Basically, they rolled a bunch of barrels into the cellars underneath Parliament and planned to set them off. Security, not exactly the best in those days, but he was found out. And this event exists at a nexus of sectarianism, nationalism, anti-monarchical and pro-monarchical feelings, Protestant Catholic divides, racial divides between the Irish and the English and the Scots and everything, and this would later roll over into the English Civil War. So it's an interesting thing to celebrate. It's kind of as if you burned a bunch of planes in effigy, or built wicker skyscrapers to celebrate 9/11, except this was a foiled terrorist plot. Fawkes himself was not burned alive or anything. Some people seem to have the idea that because we burn dummies on the fire called guys, that somehow that means that he was burned at the stake. No, he was hung, and it was meant to be a more protracted execution. People were quite cruel back then, but he jumped off the ladder and hung himself, snapping his neck, thereby denying the public of the spectacle of him dancing the Tyburn jig, or being hung, drawn and quartered, and all the rest of it. So it was actually a bit of a dud in terms of how executions go. So yeah, that's not it. The thing is, as much as it is ostensibly about celebrating the failure of Guy Fawkes to blow up Parliament, it's also a kind of celebration of anti-authoritarianism in the UK, our distrust of power. It's almost celebrating the attempt. I think it's something very British about celebrating failure and rooting for the underdog. And while Catholics weren't particularly popular, still aren't particularly popular in the UK, damned papists, it's not really that either. There's also a peculiarity in the UK in that most of our celebrations, you scratch the surface and there's something pagan underneath, as if Britain has never really quite fully embraced Christianity to any real extent. A great deal of local traditions are very much rooted in pagan antiquity. You go to any village and there's some celebration around a well or a tree or whatever that's been co-opted by Christianity, but beneath the surface there's often something pagan. Well worship, water worship, casting sacrifices into wells and so on. Goes back to the Celts if you prefer, and to Saxon deities and all manner of other pantheons and whatever else, of Roman deities and so on as well. So there's a pagan root behind almost everything, but usually there is a Christian idea laid over the top of it, blessing the well in the name of Christ rather than tossing gold into it and begging whichever god or goddess for success in war and harvest or whatever else. But Guy Fawkes Night is weird in that it really is kind of a secular holiday despite celebrating the execution of a Catholic. But beneath the surface, that paganism is still there. The bonfires, the bone fires, the celebration of fire, the defiance of winter, again goes back to other festivals. Just as Christmas is a co-opted winter solstice celebration, so Bonfire Night relates to many pagan beliefs and ideas and festivals, and in some places the old pagan traditions are even more obvious than they are with bonfires and fireworks and so on, like rolling flaming barrels and things. It's just fascinating to me how, in Britain at least, these traditions have survived despite the oppression of Christianity, and people still find a way to have fun, and how that paganism is there even underneath a secular holiday like Guy Fawkes.
And if we're going to talk about Guy Fawkes, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about Anonymous. We need to talk about V for Vendetta. Now, V for Vendetta started as a comic by perhaps the greatest literary genius to work in comics ever. Alan Moore is a bit up himself now and can basically do whatever the hell he likes, and I think he'd benefit from a more editorializing voice, but there's no denying his genius and talent and the way that both he and Neil Gaiman have elevated the comic book form, or had, and seems to be being kind of torn down and burned at the moment. Now, V for Vendetta was an explicitly political comic, and it was commentating on the world of Margaret Thatcher. You have to understand that at the time there was talk about putting people who had AIDS into camps. Thatcher's style of leadership was much more authoritarian than previous had been, and at the time there was a kind of a panic, but a more legitimate panic than today, I think, about the rise of the far right in that time, in that place, the British National Party and so on. And there was still the spectre of nuclear war hanging over everyone. So the premise of the comic is that a limited nuclear war takes place. Britain manages to stay out of it for whatever reason and is relatively well off in this post-war world. Though not that well off. The difficulties lead to a fascist takeover of the United Kingdom, and V is an anarchistic rebel acting against that, and the perversion of the structures of authority such as Parliament and the Old Bailey and so on. But he is explicitly an anarchist, and it is explicitly a political work. It's about politics. But unlike the clumsy, ham-fisted political comics of today, it was tackled through allegory and speculation and illusion. It rhymed with real life. It didn't beat you over the head with its politics in the same way. And this is why, in part, it's so well regarded, much like others of Moore's works. The symbol, though, has largely been co-opted, I think, after the V for Vendetta movie, which wasn't fantastically successful, but does seem to have caught certain people's imaginations. The film is wildly inferior to the comic. It's not a bad film by any stretch, but it lacks the heart, the soul, and the pure anarchist perspective that is present in the comic, and it seems to have been adopted by a more libertarian streak in the United States, which I'm sure does not make Alan Moore, who is a inveterate lefty old pagan bearded wizard, I'm sure it doesn't please him very much at all that that's the way it's been taken. Probably happy at the anti-authoritarianism, unhappy at the style of anti-authoritarianism that Anonymous has taken on, and more's the pity. Well, pun intended. So I would encourage everyone to read the comic, even if you have to pirate it, because it's one of the best educations on the principles of anarchism, the most accessible educations on that, and the dangers of authoritarianism of whatever stripe that there is. I think it's approachable, it's still intellectual, and if you follow the path back, if you educate yourself further on the things that it brings up, it's all to the better. So yeah, do yourself a favour, don't watch the movie, read the comic. Alright, my lovely little gang of reprobates, that's me out for a week then, unless something drastic occurs, in which case you'll see low quality phone videos from me. If you want to do a guest video, now's the time, but it'll have to be quick. And otherwise, I guess I'll unironically, see you next Tuesday. Zang.
Whatever you're looking for, hey, don't come around here no more.
I can make it happen. I can get you anything you want. You just have to talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. I'm your priest. I'm your shrink. I'm your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man. The Santa Claus of the subconscious. You say it. You even think it. You can have it.